our energy costs. The electricity we supply to our members could once again become a luxury, essentially rolling back the clock. We urge DEQ not to add to the burdens facing our members today. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Keith Martin.
Good evening. My name is Keith Martin. I'm Vice President of Public Policy and General Counsel at the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. The Virginia Chamber is the largest business advocacy organization in the Commonwealth with over 16,500 members. During the past 18 months, the Chamber has engaged over 7,000 business and community leaders throughout the Commonwealth to formulate a strategic business plan to improve the Commonwealth's economic competitiveness, something we call Blueprint Virginia. Concerning energy, Blueprint Virginia promotes an all-of-the-above energy strategy that ensures the continual availability of reliable and affordable energy for Virginia families and businesses. Environmental protection and energy independence are compatible and complementary goals to achieving economic growth. We are currently gathering feedback from the business community on how the EPA's complex rules will impact the Commonwealth and businesses. However, there has been much discussion about these rules by the U.S. Chamber and other business organizations from a national perspective, and potential impacts on jobs and the economy are quite concerning. The Virginia Chamber believes that our economic competitiveness depends on a comprehensive, balanced energy policy that considers at least 5 components that I'll mention here. First, supports the full utilization of our domestic resources to meet the growing needs of our population and business community, which creates jobs, increases government revenue, and reduces energy prices. Second, does not pick winners and losers among energy resources. Recognizes that fossil fuels such as oil, natural gas, and coal are necessary components of our energy supply mix. Promotes the development of technology enhancements, but does not force them into the marketplace before they are cost-effective and financially and scientifically achievable. And finally, recognizes the nexus between end prices of energy and the economic well-being of the Commonwealth. Whatever form the EPA regulations take moving forward, we ask that DEQ work with the business community to ensure that businesses have the tools and flexibility needed to comply, while retaining the long-standing competitive advantages of diverse fuel resources and affordable electricity rates. I appreciate your time. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Weigard.
Good evening. If the human health impacts of coal particulate pollution were imaginary, and if global warming were imaginary, then we would not need to be here this evening. However, both these things are real. Time does not allow a review of mountains of evidence amassed by climate scientists globally, but the evidence is there. Very few of us in this room are climate scientists. Possibly none of us may be climate scientists. But those of us who are not climate scientists should refrain from pretending that we know science better than those scientists do. What I'm saying is that I support the EPA Clean Power Plan. What should we do in response to the EPA action? Shifting electricity production from coal to natural gas, the trend of the past few years, because natural gas is cheaper, does not in itself achieve victory over greenhouse gases. Lower carbon emissions are good, but only if the line on the carbon chart continues to go down. Increasing renewables and energy efficiency are the needed Act 2 of this drama. Natural gas won't do it alone. We in Virginia have just now begun to dip our toe in the water of renewable energy. Personally, in terms of my own family, last month we decreased our annual electricity demand by around 20%. by reducing our air leaks in our home and upping our attic insulation to R49. This cost us only $1,400, all of which we'll get back in savings within 4 or 5 years. The value of energy efficiency lies in carbon unburned and consumer money unspent. I urge us to also think in terms of meeting new demand through renewables, but as well, at the same time, trying to reduce our demand a few percentage points through a more active program of energy efficiency, with some incentives adequate to waken an untapped market, which is very large in Virginia. So to conclude, I advocate increasing renewables more rapidly than we have been at the present time, and to make improved efficiency and energy conservation a serious element in the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Hannah Weidard.
Thank you for taking comments at these hearings. This forum really does show the diversity and the breadth of support for action for healthier air and addressing global warming at the state level. My name is Hannah Weigard. I'm speaking on behalf of Appalachian Voices this evening. We're an advocacy organization for Central and Southern Appalachia on environmental and energy issues. In Virginia, we're part of a coalition that for the past year has conducted a campaign entitled New Power for the Old Dominion. New Power for the Old Dominion. And in my comment tonight, I'd like to highlight the potential for EPA's new standards to drive the very initiatives that our coalition has been working towards. Southeastern states consume a lot of power. For example, on a hot day like today, we put our air conditioners to work. To speak up for young Virginians for a second, my generation grew up in the early 90s, born since the winter of '85, and that's an important benchmark because according to a Reuters story this week, we're among the 50% of the world's population that hasn't known a climate in which the weather was not hotter than the historical average. We've not known a colder than average year, my generation. In other words, there is a new normal for younger people all over the world who can't remember what seasons and global temperatures used to be like. With all that comes familiarity with more violent storms, floods, superstorms, hurricanes, droughts, etc. In Virginia, the impacts of fossil fuel overdependence take many shapes. My hometown of Richmond has again been named the asthma capital of the United States this year. Growers that farm everything from market produce to wine grapes are telling advocates like me that they're concerned, that they're taking a financial hit from unpredictable weather events much more often, events that spell catastrophes for their berries and tomatoes and some of my favorite things grown in Virginia. Voices who had previously been quiet are now speaking up for policies that promote restoring a stable climate. Virginia has a vast potential for pollution-free energy, and this new action by the administration provides context and guidance, a signal to help unlock that door to investment. Local clean energy and efficiency businesses should be the ones who benefit the most. And first, contractors that do home audits like we just heard about will star in this story, which offers a happy ending for everyone, I would say. Homeowners saving on utility bills by wasting less energy, utilities demonstrating their green commitment and showing that customers they serve like these programs that have environmental and economic benefits. On that, to conclude, an estimated $900 million would be added to the economy if Virginia's largest utility took on a modest energy efficiency rate of 1.3% per year through 2027. That's from a study that our coalition put out recently called Changing Course. To close, Virginia is not taking this on alone. We should consider joining a multi-state implementation plan, and we can draw on resources from the Virginia Energy Plan and the Governor's Climate Commission recommendations to inform our plan. Other neighboring states are moving steadily toward building clean energy economies. No reason Virginia can't turn its current competitive disadvantage into a celebration of wind and solar opportunity, making progress towards safer, more affordable, and reliable energy through this process. Thank you all.
Our next speaker is Karina Bell.
Thank you for this opportunity to give public comment. As you've heard, asthma is the #1 health problem that causes American school children to miss school. It costs taxpayer millions, tens of billions of dollars each year in healthcare costs. The stakes are highest here in Richmond, in my community. We regularly appear on the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America's short list of American cities that are most challenging places to live with asthma nationwide. We topped this list not just once, but in 2010, 2011, and 2013. Factoring in that ranking are very high levels of year-round pollen, high rates of poverty and uninsured residents, a lack of city smoking bans, high crude death rates for asthma, and a large number of annual emergency room visits for asthma. A major trigger for asthma attacks is smog pollution, which is produced in a large part by dirty power plants. Smog is also exacerbated by heat waves and climate disruption fueled by carbon pollution. Considering the poor air quality we've experienced this summer in Richmond and Virginia's failure to expand Medicaid, I expect Richmond's 2014 ranking by the Asthma and Allergy Foundation will be no different. Fortunately, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is taking action with their proposed air pollution standards for both carbon and smog. These protections will keep Richmonders healthy by reducing toxic air pollution that causes illnesses like asthma and helping to mitigate the worst effects of climate disruption. However, Richmonders and my community will not benefit from EPA's actions unless you, the Department of Environmental Quality, also act. By establishing strong carbon pollution protections in Virginia, they rely on scaling up our energy efficiency and building out our clean energy infrastructure. All Richmonders stand to benefit. If responsibly implemented in Virginia, a plan that focuses on shifting away from dirty coal to clean energy will help my community of Richmond safer and healthier than we've been in many years. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kendall Crawford.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendall Crawford and I am the Richmond Conservation Program Coordinator for the Sierra Club. Here in Virginia, our chapter is around 17,000 members strong. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you my views on the Clean Power Plan. The National Climate Assessment released this past June announces that children, the elderly, the sick, the poor, and some communities of color are the most at risk of the negative health impacts of climate change. The assessment reports that the impacts of climate change are here today and that they will intensify our existing threats to health. One threat predicted to worsen is respiratory stress from poor air quality. This does not look good for those like me with conditions like asthma and allergies. With the report predicting increased smog, more wildfires, longer pollen seasons, higher pollen concentrations, and worsening indoor air quality due to fungi and molds. We cannot afford to let climate change amplify our health risks, especially when it will come at the expense of the most vulnerable among us. Richmond is already ranked as the top asthma capital in the U.S. According to the U.S. Office of Minority Health, African Americans are 3 times more likely to die from asthma-related causes than Caucasians. And African American children are 3.6 times more likely to visit the emergency room for asthma than Caucasian children. According to the Energy, Economics, and the Environment Effects on African Americans report released by the American Association of Blacks in Energy, approximately 78% of African Americans live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant. Although coal is often hailed as being the most cost-effective energy solution, this does not take into account all of the burdens that weigh down on the communities closest to the plants. Unfortunately, African Americans with lower rates of health insurance coverage have fewer resources to manage these added impacts. These communities suffer from increased rates of asthma, lost school and work days, not to mention lead exposure, which has been linked to attention deficits and higher instances of violent crime. Surely these expenses should be calculated as a part of the true cost of our energy production. I feel that these health disparities need to be addressed, the vulnerable need to be protected, and we as a society need to become more serious about fighting climate change. We cannot ignore the alarming health disparities within our community. The vulnerable, our children, and future generations are too important for us to not take strong and decisive action. Additionally, the economic opportunities